The Urban Development Institute of Australia is the leading organisation representing all aspects of the development industry. We all know how wonderful it is to live, work and invest in WA. What we need now is to better define our value proposition for what makes Perth and Western Australia an amazing place to call home. The urban development industry contributes 15% of employment throughout Western Australia, which is more than the mining sector. We also contribute up to $18 billion to the state's economy each and every year. Our three key priorities are economy, environment and livability.
Investment in infrastructure is so important. It adds to the economy, it adds to jobs, but more importantly from a development sense, it allows us to understand where all the key backbone infrastructure is going to lie and allows private investment into those areas. It also, in the end, creates a more affordable, connected community.
In terms of population growth, it doesn't have to mean people necessarily competing for jobs. It's about finding the areas where we have gaps, and as we approach what I think is going to be a very tight labour market, it's about bringing people in who can assist us in building the economy and then accommodating them in places that are sensible in growing and building a good, vibrant city. I see migration and immigration as probably the most strategic policy area now for the state government, and I think it's important that we have a plan for how we're going to encourage and accommodate it in a sensible way, which obviously protects local jobs whilst helping to grow the economy. We've been very carefully managing our borders, but I think you can scale migration through the scaling of quarantine in a way which doesn't put our economy or our people at risk.
How do we cut red tape? We make it really clear in regard to what the process is and make people in the process accountable, both the applicant and the government agencies involved in the process. It really is about accountability, clarity, and as a result you get certainty through the process.
So I think the things that need to change in order to make it more fair and efficient tax system is firstly rethinking the FIRB tax. I think that has really caused a halt on investors buying into the market in WA, and by rethinking the FIRB tax will hopefully incentivise people to buy and invest again into the WA market, and that will also help with the rental supply shortage we have at the moment. Longer term, looking at taxation reform, specifically stamp duty and removal of stamp duty, and looking at a more fair and equitable taxation system.
Streamlining all approvals are important, but the big one is certainly environmental approvals. There are so many positive outcomes by having a streamlined and structured environmental approval process. We can improve these processes by doing what we've been doing with government for the last 4 or 5 years, and that's working together on the SAPA.
I think one of the big things that the government can do in order to facilitate more innovation in the housing sector is to look at incentivising developers how they can actually do things differently, and that's both in the design and the construction of the homes and buildings. That can be, using different materials or using different construction methodologies, and also is there ways that government can incentivise to use recycled materials as well.
The industry acknowledges the great work that the state government's done to date. They went into last election with Metronet, but certainly for us, we want more legibility, more strategic approach into the future, into the more people-orientated infrastructure, which is at the community level.
The vacancy rate is at generational lows, and that is causing a problem. Most people are expecting rents to go up by 20% or more. That is a concern, and that is purely because of lack of supply. That causes a knock-on, more people on the social housing list. So having a continuity in supply is absolutely critical.
Really, if we want to attract and retain the best and brightest, we have to create a range of housing choice, but also the ability for younger people to live in interesting precincts that aren't a long way from the CBD or the coast.
Supporting the urban development industry is supporting all West Australians to succeed.